My name is Obscure Scripts. This is my very first video on my new YouTube channel, and I would like to address that this channel will be used for portfolio purposes, and at the same time, I just kind of want to have fun with my passions, which is, in this case, hacking or pen testing ethically. And I would like to showcase how to hack each machine that is presented in the Lane Kusanagi's Google Doc list that he has for preparation on the OSCP exam. The first machine that I had already streamed on my Twitch, which is, by the way, the same way as it's written in the channel. I've already streamed the Kenobi machine, but the thing is that I had forgotten to have the VOD for it, and the next time I stream, it'll have a VOD on the next machine. But I want to go out of my way to create this recording to be able to at least have something on my YouTube channel. In advance, I want to apologize for my coughing if it comes out, or if I have to clear my throat a bit. Currently got out of a flu that I had. It was not your typical flu, it was like an influenza flu, but hopefully you understand. There's nothing really I could do other than treat it. And with that being said, well, there it goes. Let's get started. So if we go to the machine itself, let me just look it up real quick. It'll take just a bit to get there. Which, by the way, I already have a write-up on it as well. Let me just put it right here. There we go. Let's just look this up real quick. This is the one that we had done. I will start it right now. I will make this IP address appear so that we can get the hacking started. So normally these videos and write-ups are not really meant for your newbie or average person. This is more for people who are more focused on the area of pen testing, or / red teaming, depending on how far you want to go. For now, for, like I said, portfolio purposes and education, I want to get started with some of the ones that are really easy to digest. This type of knowledge and hacks and just offensive security in general does require a bit of basic cybersecurity knowledge and some networking fundamentals in order to understand the rest of these things. This type of information you can usually find for free online, and shouldn't be too hard to figure out exactly what I'm doing. But for starters, I'm actually using a tool called nmap for those who are getting started in this sort of realm. This nmap tends to be one of the hacker's favorite tools to start scanning what's available in an IP address, or essentially the machine that we're trying to get into. In this case, we're going to be attacking Kenobi, and this is the IP address that it presents to us to be able to get started with the scan. So I will throw this in, and I will keep the simplicity of the nmap commands to a minimum, just to, you know, fulfill what the room in here explains the new hacker to get started with, rather than going with your, you know, if you're a veteran hearing or watching this video, you know that there's a lot more that you would want to put in this nmap command, like the version, or how fast you want it to be, etc., etc. I mean, and the fast part is only for, like, you know, practices like this. You know, you don't really have to do it in a real engagement. In a real engagement, it's way different. But with that being said, I'm just going to do nmap and then choose the IP address, like I said, and wait for it to give us a something out of this. Host seems to be down. Oh, because I'm not connected to the VPN. That's on me. So I have the VPN somewhere. Let me just create a new tab. Go back a bit. Do that. Put my password. And then it should go through. And a good way to know if it's going through is if you see this line at the end, it says initialization sequence complete, or completed, sorry. And we can just ignore this tab for the rest of the engagement here. But at some point, sometimes these machines don't actually do a great job at staying up, but it really depends on the machine. It really depends on what you're actually attacking. So since the machine is really simple, it doesn't really require a lot right now. So let's just redo that. Actually, one of the first few things before we even do an nmap scan would be to check if the IP is even active at the moment. So this is a good way that it's telling us that we are actually able to ping it. And even though the machine at the beginning, or sorry, the room tells us that it's a Linux machine right here. Let me just put that a little bit closer. Even though it says that, if we go back, a good way to know is looking at the time to live. Anything under 64 is usually Linux. Anything above, what is it, like 100 something, I believe? Let me see. ETL for Windows machine. It's usually around 128. That's how you know you're attacking Windows rather than Linux. So with that being said, now let's start the nmap scan, and let's get this going. It might take a while, but because this machine isn't really that big, it won't take forever, like a little bit more advanced machines. So we are presented with some results, and it seems that we have FTP, SSH, HTTP, RPC bind. This at some point we will be using, and we have SMB. This is more for locally. This is more for like all over the internet. You can actually look that up if you want. I had to look it up during the stream just to make sure. but somewhere here as well, it does showcase this information. It says here, port 139 SMB is, let me see, where's the important part? It allows computers to talk to each other on the same network, meaning if we're on the same Wi-Fi or within the same internal network, we should be able to talk to each other. Or sorry, the machines between my machine, and the victim machine should be able to talk to each other. With 445, it says using TCP, allows SMB to work over the internet. Okay, and this only applies to later versions of Windows 2000. 2000, all right? So at some point, we're going to be using this nmap script to kind of tell us what the hell is in these SMB shares. SMB usually refers to shares, by the way. So that's what that means. But what does SMB really mean? Like, what does it stand for? It means server message block. Okay? You're not really going to have to remember this all the time, but at least you know what it means. You know, you can always look it up. Not everybody remembers everything, which is, you know, normal. But one thing that you will always remember is that SMB typically means shares that you would normally find. And that means that when you're working in a company, typically, you know, if you're using a computer for the, you know, a work laptop or some sort of machine, whatever it is that they give you, you should be able to see in your file explorer, this little file thing, image here, icon, somewhere, you should see that same share somewhere. And that's the thing that we will be hacking in this machine, technically, in a way, because it has very sensitive information, or potentially something sensitive. So let's get back into it. So as a hacker, as a advanced hacker, the first thing that I'm like already looking at to check out would be the port 21, which is the FTP service. We do not look at the SSH right here, port 22, because normally you won't really have access to SSH unless you have something special, like a SSH key, or some sort of you know, some sort of potential exploit that might be vulnerable for anybody out there. You know, because somebody might have like exposed the vulnerability, and you can just check the SSH version that it has, and be able to, you know, bypass all that. Or you can do brute forcing on SSH. There are many couple things that you could actually do with this, but for now, those are the typical things that normally people would go for. And the other one that we should be looking at is HTTP. This doesn't always mean anything, okay? But sometimes that'll be like one of the last things that we will find to check out. Same thing with the SMB. The SMB would be probably a bit more higher priority than the HTTP one as well. Like I said, HTTP is more like, oh, well, I have to go to a website that is not secure, but it's owned by, in this case, Kenobi, and we have to check it out and see what the hell is going on in there. Okay. So with that being said, let's double check. For those who don't know, you can actually check out this HTTP website. If we just go to our Firefox through Kali Linux, which is the distribution I'm using at the moment, we are going to put in that same IP address, but we're not going to really put your typical HTTPS as you normally would, because HTTPS, the port number for that would be 443 instead of 80. There's another type, which is 8080, which is also HTTP, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Port 8. If I could type port 80 versus 8080. So here it is. It is the default port for unencrypted HTTP traffic, and it's often blocked by firewalls or ISPs to prevent unauthorized access to the server. Versus the 8080, it is an alternative HTTP port for web servers and applications, and is not blocked, is not blocked by firewalls or ISPs, which makes it a popular choice for developers. See, this is the difference. So if you see one that says 8080, that would be even more higher priority than the 80, essentially, because it's easier to access, you know? Whatever is easy for developers, it's gonna be even easier for us. You gotta think about it that way. Or at least that's how I think about it. I might have just copy-pasted this right here by accident. Let's see. And then we have port 2049. For this case, we're not really gonna need it, but you never know when there's something juicy to find in a different higher level port. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, this is not really this is not really like a typical common port to go for. You can actually look that up. I'm not gonna look it up right now, but you can actually look up what are the common ports for this. So with that being said, let's get started. Let's start doing the FTP connection right here. So you want to do FTP and then IP address, and you should have a connection into it. You can typically sign in with an anonymous login, exactly how I'm writing it right now, or typing it, sorry. You go in, and the password would be nothing. You just hit enter, and it doesn't look like we have anything, so we're just gonna exit out of it. So now we have information that there's nothing really in the FTP port, and it was just something to, you know, it was like probably opened by accident, but nothing was stored in there. So the next best thing would be to check out the SMBs. So with SMBs, this is when we get to use the script that is presented to us right here. I'm just gonna copy this and go here, and you can see that if we just read what the command says, we're using the nmap tool. We are attacking, or sorry, scanning for port 445, and we are using the script to enumerate SMB shares. And the .nsc, I don't remember what the .nsc means, but that's what the script is essentially doing anyway. It's also enumerating potential users as well under that machine. So we're gonna hit enter. It's gonna take a bit of time. If you hit enter, it actually tells you how much is done already. It's not gonna update live for you, so you have to keep hitting enter to see if it's already done. See? So you saw how there's like a 50% right here. That's how you know. But typically, because this machine is really easy, there's not a lot. You can just scan it really quickly. So what do we have here? So it seems like it had found 3 account shares, but how do you know there's 3? Well, it's really easy, right? So you take a look at these 2 backslashes, and then you look at the rest of it. So obviously this is the IP that we're attacking, but this is the share, this right here, the IPC $. What's in there? We have no idea. But the same thing goes for anonymous. The same thing goes for print $. It gives us a bit of more information about it. This is printer drivers. There's nothing about anonymous access here. It seems like it might need some sort of access that's not anonymous. There's no current user for this that can access it. For the IPC, it seems like it's giving us a bit of information. It is a Kenobi server. It has Samba, obviously, right? Because that's what we're doing. And it has Ubuntu. This is also kind of important. Ubuntu is like a Linux distribution, and it's a very popular one. And it starts with the path temp somehow. Can we do anything about that? Well, it looks like if we just log in anonymously, just like we did with the FTP, it looks like we can read it and write on it, meaning we can overwrite files that are in there. And the current user that logs in, which is anonymous, also can do the same thing, which is great. I don't know why they do this, but it's sometimes pretty important because they might change. And for anonymous, so anonymous says that any unlimited amount of users can get in. The path goes to home Kenobi share. Once I see this path that says home and it has a C drive, well, I mean all of them have C drives, but once it says home Kenobi, it literally is the same way as your own path. So, for example, look at this. Let's go all the way back, right? I'm just gonna hit enter on this. Let's go a little bit more back. You see how it just starts from this becoming to home, and if I hit ls, which is what you see to list, the stuff that's in there, you can see that this is the directory that I have on my machine, my own machine. So if I change directory into that, it becomes this, and this is automatically saying that, hey, the current user that you are logged into this machine with is this. So meaning that you're on the current logged in user's path at the moment. This isn't always the case, but in your own machine, this is the case. For their case, it would be you will be going to their directory as home Kenobi, and and inside Kenobi they have a share, which is what we're doing right now, right? I know I'm like, breaking things really specifically, but because this is my first video, I want to do it this way so that the viewer yourself can actually consume this really well. Okay, for now, once I get to like a bit more higher level machines, which on my next video it is going to be a bit high level because it's not going to have any sort of information. We just hack it and that's it. So it's going to be really interesting. And I hope to see you on the next video whenever I post that. So how do we get in to this juicy one right here, the home Kenobi share? Well, we gotta go into anonymous. So how do we do that? Let's go back to the box, and it's telling us that we have to use SMB client as our command, as our tool for getting into this machine, this share, sorry. So we hit enter, and then it's it. And I think I just lost power. And my monitor just turned off. Okay, it's back on. Oh, I think we may have lost power. For like 2 seconds. So 1 second. I'll be right back. Alright, so where were we? Let's double check that this thing is still pingable. Let's see. If we do ping and then this, yes, we're able to still ping it, which is amazing. Let's just get the hell out of here. And we were in the process of hitting the password, which would be nothing. You just hit enter on it. And there you go. So since it didn't say that the login wasn't successful, and it has you a prompt like this, like a little small shell, I guess you could say, it means that you're in completely. So let's just do dir for directory or ls as well to kind of showcase what's inside the current directory. And we have something interesting here. We have a log.txt, right? So let's grab this log.txt. Normally they would have a way to get this file, which is by copying this command here, but when I tried it, it didn't actually work because it for some reason didn't. Well, you have to get out first, right? So, well, actually, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it'll do anything like that. But what I like to do is mget. Oh, will it work if I do mget? Let me see. Yeah, no. Anyway, what I like to do is mget space star or asterisk and hit enter, and then it'll ask you from all the files that are in there which one you want, and it asks you, do you want this one? And you hit Y and enter to get the file. It'll say how much kilobytes per second it took, and if we just exit out of it because we have nothing else in there, we can see that we have a log.txt. Now there are many ways to access the log.txt. If you have a text editor, like for example Nano, it'll start showcasing everything that's in here. This is not the only way. There's a very typical one called cherry tree. Let's see. Yeah, cherry tree, and then log, and it'll pop like a file which showcases more information. I like cherry tree. It's really nice. You can even control plus to enhance it, but you can just hit control negative or dash, I guess, to kind of just go over it a little bit easier, kinda, if you're just trying to find something specific really quickly. But anyway, there is another one called a Sublime Text, which is, I think it's like that, and then, well, it's not installed right now because I need to go through something, and it'll do the exact same thing. It'll look like this because I have it on my main machine, like this. It'll look exactly like this. You know, I could type etc, etc. So just gonna get out here, and you can do all of that like that. So for someone who doesn't have Sublime Text, which is what I love using, we're gonna use cherry tree to keep the simplicity going. Nano is also a lot more simpler than that, but everybody likes cherry tree, so we're just gonna go with it. So the first thing that caught my attention was this, and this originally tells me, oh, there must be an SSH key, which is essentially what I mentioned earlier, right? So if we look at here, it says that this SSH key is in this directory. So exactly how we saw earlier, home Kenobi, and then SSH, and then ID RSA. This ID underscore RSA is your SSH key. This is your SSH key, okay? This is the private one, and then this is the public one. But this is what we want, this one right here. This is the main goal. So, with that being said, there are other things that we can take a look into this. For example, they start talking about ProFTPD configuration file. This already tells me that this machine uses that. You know, look at this. It even tells you a bit more information. It has a server name with ProFTPD, and it starts talking about default installation. So is there, so with that being said, think about it. Is there something we can do with it? Perhaps, perhaps not. But we have to find out. So how do we check? So normally we need a version of this ProFTPD in order to be able to hack it, to exploit it. So how do we get to find out the version of this ProFTPD? You know, and if you think about it, right? ProFTPD looks just like FTP, right? You know, FTP, and then there's a D. So it means that it'll look kind of the same as port 21 when we log into it. But let's see, what can we do with this? What can we do? So a good way that they check out, a really simple way to check out what the version is by doing where is it? It's I think it's over here. Yeah, there we go. So they have something, what was it? Okay, so it says, what is this version, right? And then you want to hit hint, and then it tells you to use this command. So we go back and we type it in, and then we get the IP, which is right here. Let's go back and then paste that, and then hit enter, and look at that. It's already giving us what we need. ProFTPD 1.3.5. Now here's something extra before we even get to look into this ProFTPD a bit further. We're using a tool called NC, which stands for netcat. Okay, netcat. Netcat is a free, versatile computer networking utility that allows users to read and write data across network connections using TCP or UDP. So essentially, netcat is like a way for hackers to actually connect directly to the machine through a service, through a port. Okay. In this case, it is utilizing port 21, which is essentially what we were like misunderstanding as to why on earth can't we FTP into it? Oh, well, what do you know? It's using ProFTPD. That's probably why, right? So I already have a connection to it, but what then? It doesn't really look like I'm in. It just says some information, but in reality, you are actually connected. So how do we prove this? If I do random, I guess gibberish, it'll say 500, you know, saying that this is an error and this is not a command that's within the machine, so it's not understood. Okay, so that means that we do have a connection to it, essentially. But what do we do with this? Well, again, we need to find out more about this, the ProFTPD 1.3.5. So let's go here. We're going to be using a tool that is integrated into Kali Linux, which is, like I said, the machine we're using. And we're going to look up exactly that. It's going to look up its library of exploits that are already out there. And it's going to give us some information. It's going to give us different exploits to go with for now. So right now we have 4. We have 4. And what does it say here? How many exploits are there for ProFTPD running? 4. searchsploit ProFTPD version. Exactly. So it's telling us to use searchsploit here. It's not. Is it really telling us how? No, it's not really telling us how. But the point is that this is integrated to your machine, and you can actually do that to find exploits of any kind. Now, another good one to go for is Metasploit. Metasploit is an interface which has an arsenal of utilities for it, not just looking up exploits out there. So if I were to do, let's just get into another tab, and I do MSF console, which is how you call. This is how you activate Metasploit, by the way. You'd hit enter, and it's gonna go through this whole interface. It's gonna say starting. I can't highlight it because it's doing things on its own, and it's giving you an interface at the beginning. You don't really have to worry about this stuff. You don't have to worry about any of what it says up here for now. But essentially, we are using MSF 6, which is version 6, if I'm not mistaken. And then you could start typing exactly what we just did earlier. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, you do search, and then you put ProFTPD 1.35. And would you look at that? Look at this. This is exactly what we were looking for, right? It kind of looks the same. And then sorry, I had to sneeze. And then for simplicity of getting into this exploit, like what does it actually do? You utilize the command use space and then hit 0, because the number of the list of what you searched is 0. If there were more, it would say 0 and then 1 and then 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So right now, since it's the first one and the only one appearing, we're going to use 0. And therefore, we are able to see what's inside. So how do we get to check that? Let me see. I forgot what was used. Let me see. Can I use help to tell me? Because I forgot the command for it. Might take a bit. I swear I use Metasploit a lot. I have used Metasploit a lot. Okay, there it is. Show. Or wait, not show. Options. There we go. That's what we want. Options. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. As soon as I saw the command, I was like, yes, this is the one. See? Anyway, so it gives us like a bunch of stuff. Normally we would want to see what's required. It says that it needs a C host, a C port, or sorry, it doesn't say it's required. My bad. That's on me. It does require an R host, which means the target host. It kind of explains to you exactly what it does here. So feel free to actually read this. Anything that you don't understand, I suggest you go slowly on anything that you're trying to learn, because if you just go crazy on it and go speed reading on it, you're not going to understand fully. But if you're just really good at reading, then by all means. But in my case, I like to read things slowly so that I can comprehend exactly what it's doing and not screw up at the very end. So the port that we are attacking would be 80, which is essentially what we looked at earlier, right? The port that we are also attacking is port 21, which is the ProFTPD, right? It is going to be going through a site path called var. You can typically see that here. If we just go to the root of your machine, there's something called var, like right here. And it has like a bunch of stuff in there. It has all of that. Normally, the most important ones would be looking into temp, which is temporary files, which is something that's very popular for hackers to go into, and www, or as people like to call it, dub, you know? Although it is not the only way to do it, backups are also like a high value search point as well. Sometimes local and logs as well, but the high value ones are the ones that I said, which is temp, dub, and backups. These are like the ones that everybody loves looking into first, unless there's like something extra that developers love to put in there, or thought it was a good idea, which normally isn't. But that's essentially how that works when it comes to like what to look for. It doesn't seem like we'd require SSL. Target URI, it just means that you need the URL of the website, the base path, and then it requires the temp folder path, which, exactly like I said, it's absolute writable path. Like the temp folder is like, again, super popular folder or path to go with. We don't need this. So now it's talking about payloads, which is essentially what you're going to be using to attack the machine. Payloads are your like exploit, essentially. Or kind of. Well, not really. Like, so how do I put this? So payload is more like a way to, it's like coding that can be injected into a service wherever that service injection location might be. Whether, you know, and what I mean by that is you could, you know, somewhere within the service, you can actually put in some code in, you know, you can actually manually type in code. That's what that means. But Metasploit is essentially doing that for you, so to speak. So for this case, it's going to be using called a reverse netcat. What that means is that you're forcing the service to have a callback to your own machine, meaning that you're forcing the victim machine to have a reverse connection to yours so that you can control the machine from your terminal. Okay. It's not exactly what it means, but essentially it's more or less what it's doing that. Now, if we look up exactly that, what's a reverse shell, which is essentially the same thing, reverse shell versus bind shell. Bind shell is a bit more different, which is what I was trying to explain, but it's not exactly. But for this purpose, then this video, I want to explain a little bit, continue without supporting. So both are reverse shells. Both reverse shells and bind shells are techniques in network security for establishing a link between an attacker and a target machine. But the difference is that when the target machine is behind a firewall or a NAT, it makes it harder to initiate an inbound connection. So that means that the target will connect to the attacker's machine in this setup, meaning that once in the machine, we're going to connect back to our main machine, hence bypassing the firewall restrictions. Versus bind shell, it is able to connect directly to the target machine. In that respect, the target machine is listening to some port from incoming connections. meaning we're making like it's like remote desktop protocol, you know, to actually remote in, but not exactly. It's through the terminal. It's not the same as RDP. It's kind of similar like that. That's what bind shell really is. You're just directly connecting to their machine through a port that's open that allows it, that allows such a connection. Otherwise, we would have to put a reverse shell through a different service, which sometimes you have to do it through their own website. And then be able to do that because, you know, you're not really in their machine, you're on their website, and therefore it bypasses all of that. You know, I could go different ways on how to explain this, you know, but there's like many different examples, and I'm not really gonna, for this purpose of the video, not go through all of those. I'm just giving you a general explanation of what that is. So, in that respect, the target machine is listening to some port of incoming connections, and control is given to the attacking machine upon connection to that port. So, the choice to use a reverse shell or a bind shell will be determined by configurations of the network, the firewall, and the extent of access the attacker has to the target machine. That's it. So a bind shell, this in coding, this is more or less what it looks like. There you go. I'm glad that it gave an example here. Normally it would be connecting to port 444. I mean, if you wanted to, could be whatever number you want, to be honest. And the funny thing is that the current user can actually see what connections are into the machine if they know what they're looking for as well. But that's only if they detect you, and if they detect you, that is a good thing because ethically, that's literally what you want the client to do. You know, your client, the person that contracted you to do this. That's exactly what they want you to do. And if they don't, then that's kind of a big problem. So it has to be called out eventually. Or sorry, by the end of the engagement, technically. And then it has like a bunch of other commands, which is fine. And this is a reverse shell as well. You can really go into it on your own. I'm not really gonna go into it. There's like many ways of understanding this how to fully grasp what this is. But let's just go back to our machine because we're not really done. We're kind of halfway, but not really. So I'm just gonna get out of here. I'm gonna exit out of this, so we're gonna keep the simplicity out of it, but I'm just showcasing a bit of what's possible at the very least. So because we saw earlier on Metasploit, this is the one that we want. Usually Metasploit it already has the one that you need. So that already told me, hey, this is the one that you need. So how do we copy this exploit into our directory? So we're gonna use searchsploit again, and we're gonna copy with Control-Shift-C and Control-Shift-V to paste it. You know, Control-Shift-V to copy. This command only works on Linux distributions, by the way. If it's in a Windows machine, you don't need to do that. You know, on your host. Like, if I go to my host and I do cmd, for example, you can actually do that. What is it? Like if I type some gibberish and I highlight it, right? And I Control-C, it already copied it. So I just Control-V to paste it, just like everybody else does. But if I do Control, for example, if I Control-Shift-C, just like you would see here, it'll do the same thing, right? But the Control-C and V for Linux is not the same. Control-C is to stop a service or stop a process. So for example, you see how I have this command here? I Control-C, and this happens. Same thing with anything. Like Control-C literally cancels anything, even the VPN that we had set up earlier. And Control-V, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know, I don't think Control-V is a thing that much. I'm sure it is, but we don't typically use it unless it's like outside of a terminal, like, you know, like this, for example. I could do Control-V right here, and it'll paste exactly what I did on the other hard metal machine, you know, your host, your Windows host, if it is that you're using Windows. Otherwise, if you're using Linux, then by all means, you know, you don't really have to worry about that too much. But yeah, anyway, let's just go back. We're gonna copy this because it didn't save because I canceled it. And then we are going to put tag M or -M or -M, whatever you want to call it. We usually call it tag M, to mirror that exploit. We'd hit enter, and essentially this is confirmation that it's copied into this directory. So all we gotta do, which is, you know, it's in our current directory, and like it'll, you know, it told us where it was. So we ls to check. And the best thing that you can do here is see what the code is doing in this exploit. So let's take a look. Let's actually take a look. Let's do cherry tree and take a look at this exploit. So look at this. So it's giving us a bunch of comments. Whenever you see like a hashtag here, it's essentially telling us, hey, I'm putting a comment here for you to read. It's not actual code. So but essentially, if you see at the title, it's exposing 1.3.5. It is remote command execution, or RCE, which means that you can fully control the machine this way, in some way, once you exploit the whole way. And if we just go down and go down, this is just a banner, you know, this is just a design that the hacker created, you know, just to look cool, basically, or have some sort of a way of saying, hey, this is the right exploit, kind of. If we look up here, the first line that we're trying to look into, I don't know why it's doing that, but anyway, if we look at here, you're not typically gonna see this anywhere, but you can learn about it. This is essentially telling the whole script that we're going to be connecting back to our main machine. This is what it does, and we're gonna put it in a variable called S. Okay, so this S is gonna be called out on a different section of the code, so that it executes exactly how you wrote it, right? But this is how you do the connect back, you know, the reversing connection that we talked about. This right here. And then if you keep looking further, you can see what it's actually doing aside from that. So let's see. There's like specific sections that I want to showcase. Let me just reread it again. Okay, so this is basically the section that we want to look at right here. Exactly this. I'm going to exit out of this because it doesn't highlight it exactly how I want it. Okay. Discard it. We're gonna do nano for this, for the highlight purposes. So if we scroll down a little bit, there we go. So this is the section that I want you guys to take a look right here. So if we go for the first one, it's utilizing, it says connected to the server, right? And then suddenly it's using these commands. Something called site CPFR site, it's just telling this thing, this vulnerability, this service, to copy from. That's what the CPFR means. Copy from etc password directory, or passwd, as we like to call it sometimes, because it's not really password. Like, this password thing is not. It is not. It's not where you store passwords. Where you store passwords, it's called shadow, etc shadow. You know, etc etc, and then shadow. So it is essentially copying from this directory from the machine, and it's copying to whatever directory that you want to do on that machine, on that same machine, because later we're going to go into the directory of that victim machine and look for it so that we can do something about it. Because if we just go directly into the machine and we go here, we can't do anything. We literally can't do anything. We can't modify it. We can't do anything. So we just move it somewhere else, and that's it. And essentially the next line is doing exactly the same thing. It's just looking for this stuff, and it's putting it in a different directory, you know? And it's probably naming it something called infogen.php. And that's it. This is all the important part. So with that being said, let's get out of here. Control X to exit from the nano one, and we're gonna go back into our connection here, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna connect to it, and we're gonna do the exact same thing we saw on that exploit. So we do site copy from CPFR, right? And then we're gonna look up that log.txt path for the SSH key, which is what was interesting to us, right? Let's not do it like this. Let's do cherry tree for this. Okay, so this path right here, we're gonna copy this. We're gonna go back to our connection, and then we're gonna hit enter. This 350 means that it already did it. It means that it's only confirming that the directory does exist, or the file, and it's ready for destination name, which is when we use site copy to, and then we put it to a different folder. In this case, they're telling us here to put it in the var temp id RSA. Well, they're naming it id RSA, you know, for easy reading, right? Like to identify it. But var temp is where we wanted to put it, because this is where we can do anything we want to. We can download, we can upload things, we can move things, we can rename them, we can do anything. It's completely accessible and overwritable, right? So let's go back into it. We're gonna do exactly just that. Exit out of this. Yes, discard. And we are going to do var temp and then id RSA. And then we hit enter. And look at that, copy successful 250. You know, that's the code that they want. Indicate that we have done something, and we're done. That's it. So now we're gonna see the directory inside what we just transferred. So let's get out of here. Control C, and then we're gonna do this mounting process. So what is mounting? Like let's see. Let's read here a little bit. So it's saying let's mount the var temp directory to our machine. It doesn't really start explaining what mount is, but I will tell you. Mount, what is mount analytics? Okay, so mount attaches a file system to a specific directory, making the files and directories on that file system accessible to the user. Well, would you look at that? Ain't that crazy? It's amazing, right? So this is useful for storage and can be used for mount local or remote file systems. Well, the same way a user can do that, a hacker can do the same thing. So that means that we're going to be doing exactly just this in order to make that possible. We're going to have to we're going to have to create a file, a new directory, so that we can put the exact same thing in there, so that, so that it doesn't go all over the place. You don't want to see this all over the place. And I'm not going to show you what that looks like, but because it's really bad. But let's just do exactly this. We're going to create a new file, a new folder or path for, whatever directory. We're going to do that. We're just going to copy paste it. With this last line, we can name it whatever we want. But for this purpose of the room, we're going to leave it exactly as is. Oh, okay. Well, because I already did this, I have to create a new one. So I guess I do have to rename it to something else. We'll just do Kenobi for now. I have to do sudo. That's right. If I'm not mistaken, I have to do sudo. I messed up the password. What was it? Like that. Yes, there we go. So it went through. And now, what is telling us to do here? Now we're going to mount exactly that. We're going to mount that IP address, and that's in that var folder. And we're going to mount it. We're going to showcase what we see in that IP address into our newly created folder. So we're going to do that. We're just going to copy paste it here, Control C, because this is my Windows machine. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Could have been done on the Firefox as well. And then we're gonna do that. Failed to apply. Oh, that's right. Do I have to do sudo again? Yes. Okay. And then we're just gonna take a look at what's inside. We finally can see what's in there. And would you excuse me, and would you look at that? We can finally see what's in here. We literally just copy, well, we didn't really copy, we just, we can see what's inside that machine's directory now within our own machine. So what's a good way, like what are we looking for here? So let's go back to our folder here. So what exactly did we do, right? Let's do cherry tree log. So we copied the ID RSA, the SSH key, into we copied it into, what was it again? var temp ID RSA. So we gotta go for var temp. So let's do that. Let's look through the Actually, where are we right now? Oh, wait, I can't really do that. Anyway, okay, so I think we accessed it through var. Oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense. So we mounted while being in the var folder. That's what happened. Sorry, I suddenly kind of forgot what we did. We mounted it into the var folder, and now we're gonna go look up on temp where that is. Isn't that what we did? Let me see. I'm just double checking. That is what we told it to do, right? Yeah, see? This is where we gotta look. So we're gonna do cd temp. No such file. Oh, because we're not even in the right directory. Okay. So let's go to Pwnd Kenobi. There we go. Now we can get in. So temp. Oops. cd temp. And let's see what's in there. Well, would you look at that? ID RSA. Let's just do more information about it. Okay, so this is where we copied the important part too. So now, now with this new information, let's just open it real quick. You know, with this new information, we can actually just we can see that it has like a key. This is an RSA private key. This is what we need to be able to log in as Kenobi. Okay. So the whole key will start from this line, the entire line that I'm highlighting right now, with the lines and everything, from here all the way down to the last line. That's it. Control-Shift to copy, and we're gonna go back to our actual folder. It is Kenobi. Wait, was it? Let me see. Where were we earlier? hello there, my bad. Kenobi was the one that I did first. Hello there. And then we're going to paste it right there. Cherry tree. And then we're going to name it ID RSA. Look at that. Oh, is this not how that works? Well, okay, well, let's forget about that. Let's do nano. It's a lot easier anyway. Name it ID RSA. And then we're gonna Control-Shift to paste it. Control-X to exit, and it's gonna ask us, do you want to save this? You're gonna hit the letter Y key, and it's gonna ask you, do you really want to name it ID RSA? Like so. And you don't really have to type anything, you just hit enter, and that's it. And then it's right there. So for SSH keys, every SSH key has a permission mode that you have to force it to do. So we're going to be using a tool called change mode, or chmod as we like to call it. And we're going to use exactly like I did before. We're going to use the 600, and we're going to type in IDRSA, which is the file that we just created, or I guess we copy pasted into, and then we hit enter, and now this key is able to be usable. So how do we use the key? Well, let me show you the command for it. You do SSH, which is what we're trying to do, tag I, and then you call out exactly what the key is named. And now we're going to connect directly to Kenobi. But here's a question to ask yourself. How do we know it's Kenobi? How do we know it's Kenobi, the user that we're trying to log into? So if we look back and we go to cherry tree and we go for log.txt, here, right here, this is Kenobi's SSH key. This is how you know. This is the user. Okay. Another one would be this. The user, set the user and group under which the server will run. The user is going to be called Kenobi, and the group is going to be called Kenobi as well. The group can change depending on the machine you're hacking. It doesn't matter if it's like through practice or a real engagement. It depends, you know. You don't know how big a corporate network is. But essentially, this is your key to finding this information. So let's get out of here. I'm starting to dislike cherry tree a little bit more. I really don't like that little thing. I'm sure there's like a way to get rid of that message, but oh well. I just wanted to make it look like a bit readable, a bit nicer to read, you know. But anyway, let's get out of here. And let's just hit enter on this command. It's taking a bit of time, it looks. Oh, because it's the wrong, I think it's the wrong IP. I may have to rewrite it again. Yeah, it's the wrong IP. That's why. That's on me. Let's just up arrow key to showcase the last one. Delete all this. Copy, paste it, and there we go. Yeah, there we go. This is exactly what we want to see. So it's gonna ask for authenticity, and it's gonna ask for a fingerprint. You know, do you want to continue to connect this? If you hit no, you can't connect to it. It's impossible. So you have to hit yes. But in a true engagement, like your main objective is to be invisible. Okay. And that's the best thing you can do. Now, it really depends on the engagement though, right? If the client is telling you to go in without letting them know, then that's what you should do. And the thing is that a good hacker would just go in, do the thing, you know, hack everything, and then get out and clean everything that he did. Clean everything. Now it depends. Like some hackers actually like, malicious hackers, for example, they like staying persistent in their machine. But there's many ways to do that. You know, all the good hackers know exactly how to persist access as well. But we're not really gonna get into that. That's just a possibility that can happen in a more advanced engagement. Okay, so let's just type in yes, and look at that. Look. Kenobi at Kenobi. This is what we want to do. This is what we know where we want to be. Sorry. And now we can just search anything that's inside this machine. Like we hacked into it. It's kind of crazy, right? So let's see. So the first thing that anybody would do are these two commands. Sudo tag L to see what permissions you are allowed as the current user to perform administrative commands. Okay? And unfortunately, we can't do anything with this. It's requiring a sudo password. meaning we don't have a pseudo password for Kenobi, so we can't do anything. It's impossible. So it's impossible. So Control C to get out, just like I did right now, and the next thing would be history. Later on a different video, the sudo L will be a little bit more evident on what I'm talking about, but that's usually the best thing you can do at the moment. It's not really the only thing, but right now, this is the only thing that we should be really focusing on. So we hit history, and unfortunately, there's nothing else that is in here. But sometimes people who create machines, they leave, a bit of breadcrumbs, and they leave like certain special commands that they have entered. Like I could just type in whatever, right? Like that, hit enter, it'll say that it's not found. But if I do if I do history again, if I could type, there we go. Look at this. Look at this whole thing. Look at it. Everything that I just typed in, it's right there. It's kind of crazy. So that means that whatever they typed in accidentally, they didn't really delete it, and that's kind of a finding as well. But normally, you're not really typically gonna see that in an engagement, but you can. You never know when someone's silly enough to put stuff in there, right? So anyway, so unfortunately we couldn't really do anything with this, but that's kind of what you want to do. So what do we do? What did we do here? Let's check out the current directory from where we are now. Like, where are we right now? Where are we? We do Pwd, and we are currently in Kenobi, in the Kenobi folder. So let's do lsla to be more detailed on what list of things or files or directories is present. And look at that, User.txt. For practice purposes, this is important to submit. Okay, we're gonna view what's in there, and you're gonna copy it. If I could, okay, I'm just gonna copy it like that, and then you're going to submit that exact same flag right here. Does it not match? It looks like it matches, right? Kind of looks the same. Kind of looks the same, right? Yeah, it looks like it. Anyway, I don't know why I did this, but for someone who's like looking at it for the first time, this is normally what you would see. Usually people who create machines like these, they don't really mess around with the flag that you want to capture to prove that you actually hacked into the machine. But you kind of want to do that. You want to actually confirm that that's the flag, but normally you don't really have to. Okay, you want to make sure that you got the right thing. But people make it easy. They want you to actually feel successful, so they don't really mess around with that a lot. But this is just another way that it proves that you hacked into the machine of Kenobi. And what do you do from here? What can we do from here, right? So now the next step would be becoming administrator. You want to own Kenobi. You want to pwn this machine. Okay. How do we do that? There are many ways to do that, but we gotta find out how. We gotta look into it. Now, fortunately, the machine, the room, sorry, it already tells us where to look. On the first section, it talks about SUID binary. escalate your privileges to root. Root is the Linux version of saying administrator. Administrator, okay? And it's doing it through SUID binary. Where the hell is the SUID binary? So, if we go to the last section, to the last task, it's gonna be we're gonna be running this command. You don't have to memorize this, okay? You could if you want to. It's really short, okay? But the thing is, normally you just want to save time a lot of times. So if you want to memorize this, it's entirely up to you. You know, you could look cool or whatever doing it. But when you're doing an engagement, a lot of the things are going to be automated. Okay, so a good way to kind of just get on with it is just copy this, put it somewhere in your notes. And by notes, I mean something that you can always access, by the way. And just copy paste it from there. And that's it. So we're going to be using exactly that. We're going to paste it. And it's gonna expose all of the possible binaries, SUID binaries in this machine. Now, here's another thing. It does explain here what the differences between SUID, SGID, and sticky bits are. Okay, sticky bits. So, by the way, you add the word bits to each one as well. It's just that it's called SUID, SGID, and sticky, and then it adds bits at the end to, you know, indicate that all of these are bits. So it gives us an example above, and it's divided in 3 sections, as it mentions here. So SUID is on the first section, you know, read, write, SUID, read, write, SGID, read, write, sticky bit. Look at that. That's all that means, and it gives an example of, you know, more information about what each does. So SUID executes a file or the file with permissions of the file owner, okay, on any directory, any of them, okay. SGID executes the file with the permission of the group owner, group. So this is the owner, this is the group owner, and then this has no meaning. It has no meaning. It means nothing. But what does it do? It prevents users from deleting files by other users. Okay, so meaning that you can't do anything. It's impossible. Unless you have, you know, access. So, with that being said, let's go back. So I will just go right ahead and tell you which one you need. This is the one that you need. This is the one you're looking for. Why? Because even though this is the first machine I am showcasing at the moment, the more you keep hacking SUID binaries, the more you realize which binaries are the ones that are common. Which one are the ones that are common? And eventually you'll understand that menu is not supposed to be there. How do you know this? How do you check, right? How do you confirm this is it? I'm glad you asked. Let's go to a site called GTFObins. This is going to be an extra tool for you guys. Okay? GTFObins is the way to know how to bypass a binary, an SUID binary specifically. But this is only for Linux machines, okay? Or, sorry, let me be more specific. Unix binaries. Unix, okay? If you look up what Unix is, you'll see that it also includes Linux, you know, in there. Now, if you want to do Windows binaries, then you go to something called LOLBAS or LOLBAS, you know, because it's funny. This, you're not going to be using it until you're high level. Just, you know, just FYI. You're not going to be using this until way later. You know, once you get like really good at hacking, etc., which you will, if you're dedicated enough, you will. It's inevitable. I could go really deep into this, but for now, we're not really going to do that. We can do that once we get to the high level stuff. Now, let's look up the binary called menu. No binary matches. That's how you know it's not common. That's how you know. Now let's go back. What if it's like a different one? What if it's like pseudo binary? Well, I mean, pseudo, we get to use it all the time, right? Look. What does it tell us to do? So this basically is bypassing or essentially escaping or forcing something, a binary to actually do something in order to become root. Okay? And maintain that privilege access. So in this case, because sudo is the thing that we're using, it's telling us to do sudo and then bin sh in order to become root. Like we just literally copy paste that into the machine and it'll do something. But obviously we don't have sudo, so we can't do anything about that. This is why it's important to gather as much information as you possibly can so that you don't waste time into your hack. Okay? So let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back and let's take a look at a different one just to, you know, kind of explore a little bit, you know, make sure that it is an actual binary. Let's do, I'm not sure if this is in there, but is there? It's good. It's not in there as well, but if we actually like take a look at this and we copy it and we use the binary, it's giving us a password as well. Okay, but this is kind of a normal one that you would see on a machine anyway. Okay, so we don't have a password, we have nothing. But once you start like checking everything, you'll see that eventually you'll get to this menu one, and you know, you can just see what the hell it's doing. Now, before I get into it, oh, it actually didn't copy. But before we get into it, let's do another one. Let's do ping, for example. Let's do that. Ping. So it does. We do have something related to ping, but it says fping. It's not the same. And hping3, it's also not the same. But if we take a look at it, it gives us multiple things to do depending on the situation of what we can do with that binary. Do we have sudo access? If we do, this is what you want to do to become root. If you only can read the file, or the binary in this case, then this is what you must do. Now here's another thing. Okay? Here is where it gets interesting. Let's go back. Let's see what this menu thing is doing for once. Don't worry, the GTFObin thing will come into play in just a bit. But what's it doing? Okay, well, at least we're able to access it. It's giving us something, right? Now it says status check, kernel version, if config. What does each one do? I mean, we know for a fact that if config, it'll give us the IP address of our machine, of the current machine that we're hacked into it. Okay. Now the same thing for our current machine, it'll do the exact same thing, but I'm not going to do that for the video. Haha. Anyway, so it's giving us options 1, 2, 3. What the heck is a status check? Let's see. So it looks like it's giving us a confirmed, like a confirmed directory of a website, saying that this is an okay website to, you know, a directory in the site that exists. Essentially, this is a 200 code, meaning that it's okay. You know, it exists. It is using Apache. It's Ubuntu. We already knew this. It's using Ubuntu, but this is an extra information. Apache 2.4.18. This might be very important. We never know when we actually need it, but it's important to know these versions of these services or programs or whatever that it is that we're trying to see or, you know, engage with. So maybe it could be useful. Put this in your notes. And here's the thing. When it comes to noting, to notes, anything that you see that is of value, everything that you do, everything, even commands that you enter to check something out, to SSH, to this, to that, to whatever it is that you do in an engagement, put it in your notes. Put it in your notes. I cannot reiterate that any more than what I'm saying. Put it in your damn notes. Okay? This is like the best thing you can do, because you'll never know when you need it, and it'll be extremely important for you to hack something with that information. Without enumeration of your stuff, of the machine, of whatever it is that you're doing, without enumeration, your hack is going to be crap. It's going to be dumb. It's not going to look bright. It's not going to be smart. You're going to look like an idiot. Okay? Note everything. Note it. Never leave something behind. No matter how silly it looks, if it looks like a bit of value to you, make a note of it, because you never know. Anyway, and when I say that, it's because when you're taking the OSCP exam, that is how they're going to evaluate what you hacked. Exactly like that. Did you find what they put in there, in the machines? Your report with all those notes, and obviously, you know, finessing them for the reader, for the executives, etc., clients, or the technical people. That is your evidence. That is your proof that you hacked it. Okay? Otherwise, they have to go way too deep forensics-wise to see what you actually did. But this is like what you do. This is how you get money. Okay? Your reports. So, sorry for that, but it needed to be said so that you can have an idea of what to expect in the future. So, what does the other one do? Let's hit that binary again and hit number 2. Okay, so it gives us a kernel version. You can do the exact same thing with uname tech-r. Look at this, it's the exact same one. But they want to call it kernel version. But that makes no sense. Why can't they just use uname tech-r? By the way, this is not going to be important right now for this machine, but this is going to be extremely important for maybe a machine in the future, because you can actually exploit a kernel version of a machine. You can actually do that. It's possible. But we're not going to get into it. But make a note of it. Do make a note of it. Now, let's do the third one. What in the hell does the third one do? What is ifconfig? I already explained it, but let's just look at it. Does it actually do exactly what we did, what we expected? Yes. eth0 means that this is the machine's original IP. This is just a loop back. This is something else. We're not going to get into this. You can actually look it up yourself, but that's what that means. INET address is what we're looking for. This is the IP address that we are hacking. This is what we hacked, didn't we? 10.10.59.202. Isn't this what we did? 10, 10, 59, 202. Look at that, it matches. It matches. Okay. So, what the hell can we do with this? This is when another tool is going to be used. It's called strings. Okay? It is mentioned here somewhere. You see? Strings. Right there. So, it's going to give us holy crap, that was big. It's going to give us a picture of what we're going to be looking at, but let's just dive into it ourselves. Strings user bin menu. Oh, holy moly. Okay, so this is where it starts. So the way you want to treat strings, you don't have to pay attention to all the gibberish that you do not understand. Pay attention to the stuff that you do understand. So let's keep scrolling down. Look at this. Look. We know we saw status check. We saw kernel version. We saw ifconfig. And this comment right here. But look, more information. Look at this. Invalid choice. All this other stuff, we can just ignore it. We don't have anything in there. But look at this. We know what ifconfig does. We know what uname tag R does. But look at this. curl -I localhost. What does it do? Let's look at this. Copy, paste, enter. Isn't this the same thing we saw earlier? The status check, right? But wait, what does that mean? It means we can use curl and do something with it. What does curl? Can I access curl? Can I do this? Okay, never mind. I thought I could. So anyway, so the point is that we actually can do something with curl. Now here's the fun part. Curl is actually a binary. It's in the binary section, isn't it? Right? Think about it. Let's go back to GTFObins. Let's look up curl. Would you look at that? Now we can do something with it. Look at the many options we can do. We don't have to click on them, but it'll redirect you to that specific section of what we're looking for. So let's just hit curl instead, like this, and it'll give you a bunch of information. So here's something that you want to think about. What can we do with curl? It says that we can upload files, download files, write on them, read, and SUID. Isn't this what we're looking for? SUID, right? And then we can sudo. But we can't sudo. Can we write on it? Can we download it? Why do we need to download it? Why do we need to upload it? We don't. We like this. So this is where the value of what you want to do first comes in. So first things first, you want to focus on these three, especially this one. SUID is like your top one choice. I'm not going to go there right now. I'm going to explain everything else. So SUID is your top one. Write is your top two. Read is your top three. Typically, sudo would be your first, but who's going to enable sudo for the current user? If you're smart enough, right? But this is like an if thing, so you can disregard. Upload and download is when you're trying to see what's inside that binary, when you can't actually do anything with it. And upload is when you're trying to like put something into the machine and suddenly, oh, you're exploiting that binary somehow. Let's read into it, right? What is file upload? Let's actually, yeah, there we go. This is better. So it can exfiltrate files on the network. Obviously, right? It makes sense. So it'll send a local file with an HTTP post request. A post means that you can send some information to the machine or to the service, which is a web service usually. And then you can run the service, the HTTP service, on your machine, which is the attacker box, to collect the file. Note that the file will be sent as is, as you sent it out. But and then you have to instruct the service to not decode the URL, from the body of that code, and it'll omit the @ to send hard-coded data. So if we read into it, it says URL http attacker.com. We're just stating, like, we can literally just copy paste this and put it in the terminal on the hacked machine, and we can just tell it, hey, this is what it means now. So by the end, at the final command, it's gonna call it out later. Okay. Then you put the file that you're looking for, and then you label it as L file, and then you use that binary to do exactly what the binary exploit does. The file upload, and then it'll do something. You can do something with it, but we're not in a website. So why do we need this? We don't. We really don't. So let's go back here. File download. It'll download remote files, obviously, right? And then it'll fetch a file through HTTP GET request. So on this one, it says post. Now we have GET, which is for download. So the same way as the upload, it'll do the GET. You'll send it to a file to save, and then you're gonna download the file using curl. So you're gonna call out the website, and then you're gonna name it this name, to that file. You're gonna output. That's what the O stands for. Output to this file, essentially saving it. So file write. This is where it's gonna get interesting, because this is kind of what we're looking for, but not exactly. So it'll give us a hint. Okay. So in here, it'll write data, and it may be used to do privileged writes or write files outside a restricted file system. The file path must be absolute. What does that mean? Didn't we just see earlier what it meant? Like, do you remember when I talked about the temporary folder? It was absolute, right? Like you could do whatever you want. Like we saw that on the Metasploit console, right? We saw it. It needs to be an absolute. It needs to be in the temp folder. So you tell it which file you want it to be. The TF will create a temp folder. You're gonna echo the word data into that temp folder, and then you're gonna use curl to call that temp folder, and you're gonna output it to the file that you created, and therefore you become root like this. So with file read, we don't have to read anything here, okay? Like we are already reading it. Like, look at this. It's telling us what it's doing, right? So what the hell do we need this for? We don't. But sometimes this is the only option we have. And once you understand how that works, if you're able to read it, you're able to get out of it. And once you try to get out of it, then you become root. It's like tricking the system to do something, to perform actions as root. This is what the GTFObins is actually doing here. Now here comes the fun part. This is what we're looking for, SUID, right? If the binary has the SUID bit set, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be abused to access the file system. It'll escalate or maintain privilege access as SUID backdoor. The backdoor is essentially a way of saying, hey, I can maintain privileged access, which is root, and always access it. That's what the backdoor means. You have a persistence in access. So you can do this whenever you want. Basically, you can just enter into the root. You can become root whenever you want using this SUID backdoor. And then if it is used to run sh tag p, omit the p. So this is a bit more technical, but you technically don't have to use the p, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. It really depends. So omit the p argument on the system, like Debian, that allows the default sh shell to run with the SUID privileges. So this is very important because sh is just it's just the most direct way to have the shell become root. So what is a shell? What is a shell? Like this is a shell. This whole thing. This whole $ stuff, Kenobi at Kenobi, this $. That's your shell, technically. This $ is your indicator that this is a shell. And anything that comes after it, you can write on it. You can type the commands into it. Okay? So sh is basically calling out the root shell using SUID binary exploitation. Okay? To run SUID privileges. You see, it cannot make sense, right? Excuse me. This example creates a local SUID copy of the binary and runs it to maintain elevated privileges. To interact with an existing SUID binary, skip the first command. Okay? An existing SUID binary, skip the first command. Meaning this. We don't have sudo. We don't. But if I'm not mistaken, you can install it. If I'm not mistaken, let me see. Am I saying that right? Let me see. To interact with an existing SUID. Actually, let me see something. I'm guessing it is to install sudo. Probably. I don't know. I'm not too sure. This right here, it's obviously saying that it'll try to find where the curl has been installed. But the sudo install, I mean, I could ask the AI real quick, but one sec. I'll have to go off screen real quick. Okay, let me do this instead. Easier. It's not giving me what I want here. Okay, so it says here that the tag M, let's put into perspective what I'm talking about here. So this is what the command is. So it says here that the tag M space equals XS is the tag M specifies the file mode, which is the permissions for the file to be installed, and the equals XS explicitly sets the file to have the set UID and set GID, or SGID, like we saw earlier, you know, or SUID, which is what the S stands for anyway, to be enabled while keeping the executable the executable permission. Oh, which is the X. Okay. So the S is for SUID or SGID, which will be keeping the executable permission, which X means executable. Okay. So that's what that means. And then obviously it's gonna find where the curl is, just like I said earlier. And that's it technically. And then it's gonna look it up on the same directory. That's what the dot at the end here means, in the current directory. Okay, so now we have a better understanding of what it does. So anyway, we can just skip it. We don't have to think about that. So this is the important part right here. So, SUID. So this is the website. This is the file to save, and then we're gonna put it into that file. We're gonna use the curl command to put it in that file. Now here's the funny part. Can we write it? Can we write into the curl? That's the interesting part. That's what might be a little bit confusing. So now it's saying here to fetch a remote file. Oh wait, this is the pseudo one. My bad. This is fetching a remote file via HTTP GET. We don't have anything to do with this. Like, we don't have to get anything. Like, we have a binary to exploit. So the one that makes the most sense is file write. Right? We can see it, we can access it. For some reason, you know, binaries are typically used by administrators. So, can we do something about this? Well, let's see. What can we do? So it's telling us here that it's creating a file, and then it's creating a temp folder. But see, the file here is the menu binary, what we saw. And then it's creating a temp folder, and then it's saying that it's gonna echo, meaning copy whatever we write here. In this case, they wrote data, to kind of tell us, hey, this is a sensitive information or comments that we want to put into the temporary folder. And then we're going to use curl to output that. Let's see. Let's look at back. Let's look back over here. Oh, it says one hour or 1 minute. There we go. We don't want to lose that machine. So now it's giving us some extra information here. Like now that I have broken down a little bit what's actually going on, let's look at this. This file runs as root users privileges, and we can manipulate our path gain as a root shell. So this machine doesn't actually explain precisely what's going on. It only tells you in a very simple way what it's going to be doing. But in my opinion, this sort of stuff that I'm explaining should make sense in the future because it might be important later on. They do explain it on other rooms, but since this is my first video, I want to explain it here and now in a kind of simplistic way or as simple as possible to make sense of what actually is going on so that we don't lose track of what the hell happens on the next video. Okay? So let's see. So it's now they changed the folder. They're on the temporary folder, which we already know temporary folder is like our go-to to do whatever we want with it. To write whatever we want, technically, or execute whatever we want. So, so we are going to echo this command /bin/sh, and we already know that sh is to become root. Essentially, you're gonna put it into the curl binary. You're going to give it permissions, the correct permissions to curl, to the binary, to execute what we already put in there. And then we're going to export that same thing we just did, the bin sh, or the new curl, as what's going on here. It's going to be in a new path. It's called, in the temporary folder. And then we're going to call out that path in order to do it. And now, while being in the temporary folder, then you get to execute the new menu, which will use curl, but we have to do it through the original path. We have to call out this path. So they call out this path, and instead, when you do the menu here again, it doesn't matter which one you do, 1, 2, or 3. Well, technically you want to do 1. Well, actually, I'm wrong. It does matter. So the first one, you do have to do it because that's the command that it's used at the beginning. Meaning that for some reason, curl is writable, and someone forgot to uncheck that. They forgot to uncheck the option to write on curl. They forgot to do it. So what we're essentially technically doing is we're tricking the system to go find this curl again and read it as bin sh, which essentially turns the whole script into root, as you can see here. Okay. So let's see. Let's do exactly that. We are going to do we're going to do echo. We're going to do bin sh, and then we're going to put it into curl. And then we're going to schmod it into the new permissions to be executable. And then we're going to do curl. If I'm not mistaken, that's what they did. Yes. Okay. And then you're going to put the same path. You're going to export it. I'm going to copy paste that, or copy it, or write it down so I can copy paste it. Let's export path equals temp, and then $, and then path. And then I'm just going to write it here as well. User bin menu, so that we can call it out real quick. Copy it. Go here. Oops. Go here. Paste it. And then now we put it in the temp folder. Now to put it into perspective, look at this. If I were to run that same binary, what was it? Menu. Right here and then, without being on the temp folder, look what it does. It'll still run, right? But if I hit 1, it doesn't do anything. Why? Because it's only accessible through temp. So let's go to temp. Now we can do it. Number 1. Okay. Not sure what happened here. Strange. Did we not do this? I mean, it went through, right? So it technically went through. This is kind of weird. See, this is why I don't like this room. It doesn't really tell you a bit more. Sorry, I had to sneeze a little bit. So it doesn't really tell you more here, but I know how to do it though. The thing is that I want to do it this way so that you can see why it's failing, right? So let's read a little bit, right? We copied the bin sh shell, called it curl, gave it the correct permissions, put in the location in our path. This meant that when the user bin menu binary was run, it is using our path variable to find the curl binary. It's finding the curl binary, which is actually a version of user.sh, as well as the file being run as root. It runs our shell as root. Okay. So here the problem is that we needed to be in temp in order to do this, all these commands, which is extremely funny because they don't mention that. But let's redo that again. Let's go here. Copy, paste, enter. Same here. And then sport, enter, and then user, and then number 1, and look at that. We have the root folder. We are root, sorry. We are now root. And how do we prove this? We hit ID, and we see that the UID is root. Normally, it would say UID or username ID would be Kenobi. Because if I hit back, if I hit exit, and I do ID, see? It'll say Kenobi. But now that I did this, we are root. 0 means root. Okay? So now that you have become root, you can do whatever you want. Now, why does it look like a hashtag? Why is this the shell? Well, we already explained it, right? Like, sh is the shell that calls out root, essentially. That's all that means. I can go a little bit more into it, but I don't think I should. I'm sure there's like a bunch of rooms in TryHackMe that can explain that. So we'll just leave it at that for the simplicity. So now we can actually do whatever we want. And what exactly is the room telling us to do? We need to find the root flag that's inside the root folder. And yes, root has its own folder, you know, at the core, which is how we're able to see the var and the temp and all that. And then we're going to grab the text file. That's root.txt, the flag. So where are we right now? We are in temp. Let's do this. Where are we right now? WPD. We are in root. This is this right here, this / means we are in the root folder. Okay. This is how we're able to see temp. This is how we're able to see var and all the stuff that we saw, like home. Like if we do home, right? What is in home? Kenobi. We can see literally what we just captured earlier. So now look at this. Before we end the video here, look at this. I put the command cat user, and then suddenly, normally you hit tab to autocomplete. I'm hitting tab while being root, but it's not typing incorrectly the .txt. This just means that this shell is not stable. Not entirely. But you can at least use it. Okay? That's all that means. You can at least use it. And then you have to type it down, and you can see that we have exactly that. You know, we can see the contents. So the same thing goes for the root folder. So we go to root. We don't have to tab because it's already a folder. We're in the root folder. And look at that. We have root.txt. And you just copy it, and then you paste it, and then you're done. It'll give you like a complete room completed thing. Obviously, after answering every other bit of the questions, then you'll complete the room. But in a real engagement, you don't have to think about that. You're just like, oh, well, I have root. You know, I hacked it entirely. I can do whatever I want. That's essentially what you want to do. And on a different platform like Hack the Box, you can actually do that a lot more than just doing TryHackMe. TryHackMe is just a platform that can just hold your hand a little bit, just so you can get your training wheels going and be able to do real hacking. you know, later on. So, with that being said, let's think about something else. So same thing, if I exit out of this and I, how do I put this? If I do ls, is it here? Oh, that's right. That's not what I wanted to do. Let's call this out again. So another way to grab the root text folder is by doing this cat root and then root.txt. Do the exact same thing because you're going through, you're writing the whole path and then calling out the file that you want with the command, and that's it. So if I do, for example, cd root and then root.txt, it's not going to work because root.txt is not it's not a directory, it's a file. So you can only, you know, read files, whether in the terminal or somewhere else. But when you've hacked into a machine, normally you want to use cat. You don't want to use nano, but normally it's because the machine that we've hacked doesn't have nano. It doesn't have it installed, right? So look at this. What the hell's nano? Where is it? It's not found. So therefore we have to use other tools. Oops. If I could type. Oh, and look at this. This is perfect as well. I can't do up arrow key. This also means that it's not a stable shell. So you are literally forced to type it down as well. So root and then root.txt, and then there it is. Copy paste it, submit it, and we are done for this video. We're done. Hopefully you have learned something, and welcome to Offensive Security, where all this interesting stuff will come into play at some other level. If you're interested in cybersecurity and you are interested in this sort of thing, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to see more of this live on stream, go follow my Twitch. Go follow my Twitch. I will link everything on the description, everything that you need about the channel. And yeah, I hope to see you there on the next one. And stay safe, and as always, you know, have a great rest every day. Adios. See you next time.